Every year, there is thousands of reports of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and the vast majority are dismissed by skeptics as witnesses lack credibility and evidence. However, once in a while we get an event on such a large scale that is seen by thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people, and it even warrants a military response. These are 3 mass UFO sightings with military involvement. In 1952, we had an event that took place over a 3-day period over Washington DC. This event is referred to as the 1952 DC UFO incident, or the Washington merry-go-round. Over 2 weeks on July 20th and July 26th and 27th, UFOs were tracked by radar and seen by numerous eyewitnesses over Washington. Radar operators at Andrews Air Force Base saw visual matches for the UFOs they had been seen on radar. For 2 days, nothing was done about the UFOs, and they seemed to have their way over Washington airspace. On the 3rd day, however, curiosity suddenly turned into panic since the UFOs had entered restricted airspace over the Capitol and the White House. The Pentagon ordered jets to intercept the UFOs. Al Chop, an Air Force spokesperson from 1951 to 1953, stated that he was present in the room when the incident unfolded, and that they were tracking 12 to 14 UFOs. They could see the fighter planes coming and the UFOs suddenly vanished. The fighters patrolled the airspace for about 20 minutes, but nothing was found. However, once the fighters returned to base, the UFOs popped up once again on the radar. The fighters were once again sent to intercept the UFOs. However, this time one of the pilots was able to see the UFOs and described them as blue and white lights. The radar tower could see the UFOs all around him, and the pilot confirmed this. However, after a few minutes of this, the UFOs pulled back and left. The standoff was over. The incident stunned the nation and had much media coverage, which caused a press conference to be held by Chief of Intelligence Air Force General John A. Sanford in efforts to try to calm everyone down. He stated that he had looked over around 2,000 reports and found no threat to the United States. He claimed the incident was a mere atmospheric anomaly, an inversion layer which caused radar signals to bounce off this layer and pick up signals from the ground of cars and buildings, and somehow experienced radar operators from 3 different locations had misidentified them as UFOs. However, it was still standard practice to accept any official story from the government without questioning it back then, and for many years to come. The senior air traffic controller at Washington National Airport, Harry Barnes, gave his own account of the events. He stated the UFOs made right-angle turns, reversed their course, and one radar had tracked the UFOs at speeds of 7,200 miles per hour. He stated that he had never seen anything maneuver like this in all his years of being a radar operator. Extremely credible accounts such as this one lead many to question what really happened during that 3-day period in 1952. The Phoenix Light incident was able to get media attention from all over the world, leaving many with questions that still remain today. At approximately 7 p.m. on March 13, 1997, a young man in Henderson, Nevada, reported witnessing a V-shaped UFO with 6 large lights heading southeast and disappearing from his view over the horizon. This sighting was likely the beginning of an extraordinary event that unfolded over the next 2 to 3 hours over the states of Nevada, Arizona, and possibly New Mexico. At around 8:30 p.m., a blitz of telephoned reports began pouring in to UFO organizations, law enforcement, media offices, and to the Luke Air Force Base. However, the reports coming in were often contradictory of one another. Some reported seeing 5 or 7 lights or even more. Others reported seeing orange or red lights, while others reported seeing white and yellow lights, which led many to believe that different UFOs were involved in all the reports. The main focus of attention from this incident came from a videotape of a cluster of lights that was recorded between 9:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. An anonymous person who claimed to be an airman from Luke Air Force Base reported that 2 F-15 fighters had been scrambled to intercept one of the objects, although this was never confirmed. The alleged airman provided additional credible information which led many to believe his story. The Air Force later released a statement saying that what was seen was flares launched from an A-10 Warthog at approximately 10 p.m. However, many believe that flares cannot account for the duration of the event and the timeline of the initial reports. Others question the idea of flares being able to confuse so many, since flares are so easily identified. After the statement was released, the media and local government didn't seem to take the reports very seriously and mocked the sightings publicly. However, many people weren't laughing and see this as part of the ongoing cover-up effort by the government. The 1942 Battle of Los Angeles incident was an extraordinary event. To understand how big of a UFO sighting this was, some context is required. It was 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, at the height of World War II. Fear and paranoia ran rampant. On February 25, 1942, at approximately 2:25 a.m., the city of Los Angeles blacked out as air sirens rang out, as 12,000 air raid wardens reported to their posts, expecting nothing more than a rehearsal for a possible future event. However, these volunteers were shocked as they witnessed the UFO firsthand. Many stated that the UFO was huge, just enormous, hovering above the city. Eventually, hundreds of thousands of people were able to see the UFO in spectacular clarity. A witness very close to the UFO described it as, and I quote, "a lovely pale orange and about the most beautiful thing you've ever seen," end quote. The US Army anti-aircraft searchlights had the UFO completely covered. They sent fighter planes, according to many witnesses. They stated they could see the planes approaching and firing on the UFO to no effect. After several minutes of this, the planes were called back. At approximately 3:36 a.m., the 37 Artillery Brigade's anti-aircraft batteries opened fire on the UFO, awakening anyone who was still sleeping or had gone back to sleep thinking this was just another training exercise. Dozens of anti-aircraft batteries fired nearly 2,000 rounds of 12-pound high-explosive shells in full view of hundreds of thousands of residents. The firing continued intermittently until 4:14 a.m. However, the huge UFO was completely unaffected by the attack and slowly and leisurely made its way down to and over the city of Long Beach before finally moving on and disappearing into the distance to never be seen again. After it was all said and done, the shells had destroyed pavement, homes, and public buildings. They even had killed 3 people and another 3 died from heart attacks due to the intensity of the incident. Normally, an incident of this magnitude would garnish worldwide attention. However, World War II was the only subject the world was interested in at the time. The Navy first stated the incident was a result of what they called war nerves, a false alarm, and it wasn't until 40 years later that they changed their story to a drifting weather balloon. However, to many believers in the UFO phenomena, this is a typical cover-up, and it only strengthened the mystery of what really happened that night in 1942. Hello everyone, this is JC and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more content on a weekly schedule, please consider clicking the link below and subscribing. I would also love to hear your comments and suggestions for future videos. Catch you all in the next one.